Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise, having a really interesting conversation off air with the governor himself, that is of the Central Bank, Mr. John Roll, and we're going to bring that conversation to you. The Central Bank of the Bahamas has been talking about a gradual liberalization of exchange controls, and changes are already taking place toward that goal. They've got an upcoming seminar in February to discuss it even further. We're going to bring that information for you here first. Mr. John Roll, good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
A pleasure to have you with us because we're talking about some really important stuff. Really, we're on the cusp of major financial change, not just as a country, but as a world. And so it's really important that we, as a nation, are doing our part in ensuring that businesses and people have the opportunities to do the things that they need to do to secure the future. And so firstly, I want to find out, why is there a need for more relaxed exchange controls?
Well, we look at it more from the point of view that the more that you can allow the private sector to operate freely, the better it is for the private sector.
Okay.
But in going through the process of relaxation, we want to do it in such a way that we don't lose control over the foreign currency flows that are so vital for your everyday payments for imports of goods and services. And so periodically the central bank would look at the areas where it can give more of the responsibility to commercial banks. So in this present round, for example, for most businesses transactions, the commercial banks can over the counter conclude foreign currency sales of up to $1 million for a business that's making payments abroad. That limit used to be $500,000 before. But separate from that, businesses still had the option of coming to the central bank and getting annual approvals based upon what their import expenditures were like, and that way too it minimized their contact with the central bank. The area where I think the reforms have more impact this time around is focused on businesses having access to operating foreign currency accounts, which means that they can deposit some of their US dollar earned revenue and they can use those proceeds to make payments abroad. It's really, the stress now is using those to make payments that are related to the ordinary operations of their businesses.
Excellent, excellent. And so before, where someone might have to come into the central bank for approval for a US dollar account, they're now able to do that through the commercial bank?
Yes, the process in the past involves persons coming in, making an application, putting a case forward, and what the latest reforms have done is said that within an operating limit of $100,000, a business can go into the bank and just make the arrangement to open up the account.
Excellent.
And the bank will of course satisfy themselves that the business is generating foreign currency in its ordinary course of operation. Now that's very important because people will find that when they start to operate in foreign currency accounts, banks do pay more attention to issues such as money laundering and other criminal activities in terms of the source of the foreign exchange that are being earned and retained. And so be prepared that your banks will scrutinize to be satisfied that you are earning that composition of income legitimately.
Okay, and so we could expect then that in terms of documents and invoices and that type of thing, it won't be any easier. As a matter of fact, it'll be more strenuous on the business person.
I don't know if it will necessarily be strenuous, because if you have a good relationship with your bank should already know what your deposits look like, whether you're depositing a certain amount of cash in US. Of course, in the present case, they would still only give you credit in Bahamian dollars. But having that understanding as to what your business cash flows look like and the composition, it should not be a difficult decision for your service provider to determine whether you can have these types of facilities.
And these changes begin to take effect this
February 1st.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Now, there's also relaxation on capital accounts enabling Bahamians to invest overseas.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
These measures were introduced first in 2006. Around that time, there was a provision for Bahamians to take up to $1 million abroad at a time to make direct investment in forming companies. And a lot of people use those opportunities then to buy into ownership in the offshore sector. So you have lots of Bahamians who own equity in some of our international banks and trust companies and the mutual fund companies. That was one of the areas where these types of investments were made. In 2016, the government agreed, no, 2016, the government agreed that those limits could be increased. So right now you can invest up to $10 million over, I think, 5 to 10 years abroad directly in businesses and enterprise.
Okay.
Last year, an additional change was to look at the opportunity for Bahamians to go abroad to raise monies for businesses that are being operated locally. So up to between $2 to $10 million, a person can go abroad and raise directly to fund their business, whether they are taking out loans or they're finding partners abroad who are going to invest in their business. Now, that limit really says that you're going to probably your commercial bank. If you go to your commercial bank locally and they determine that you qualify, they can conclude the transaction. They can let the central bank know about it afterwards.
Okay.
If you're going abroad, you can make the arrangements and then you can come to the central bank once you've progressed with your transaction, and then you can get the blessing to the central bank to conclude it.
Okay.
In strategic sectors, agriculture, fisheries, manufacturing, energy, telecommunications, infrastructure, tourism, transportation. It's quite a list.
Okay.
The other thing, though, is if you were to go to the World Bank, because they have an entity, the International Investment Corporation, not International Finance Corporation, and the IDB has an equivalent. They lend to the private sector. And there are no preset limits on the amount of funding that you can raise from those entities. So if you put together a good business proposal and they find that it's deserving of funding, you can go and you can get funding from those agencies. And we know that in the case of the IDB, their agency has lent, I think, on at least 2 occasions in the last year to local businesses for energy-related projects.
Okay. So talk to me then about why it's important to still have the central bank involved. I think some people, and now that there's this concept of blockchain and this notion of cryptocurrencies, which were directly invented in many respects to circumvent the government and any process involvement, oversight and regulation, why is it that the central bank still needs to be involved in determining the amount of money you bring into the country and the giving their approval or their blessing, so to say, on your business? Tell me, why is that your business?
Well, the reality is that in every country of this world, the government is responsible on some level for making sure that the collective amount of private sector activity in terms of their investments are happening in a fashion that's orderly.
Okay.
The government is always in a position, because of the information it collects, to get a better view of what's going on. But you try to do it in ways that do not interfere with efficient operation of businesses. Okay. So from that point of view, in the Bahamas, we want to progress to the state where we can step back even more and more from the direct management of certain aspect of private sector activities. And so the liberalization process really is to reduce those direct instances of government involvement in business transactions. And you're able to do that more and more once you build the systems in place that allow you to manage the economy more from a distance. Okay. And that is part of what we're doing. So we don't encourage, say, lending or borrowing where we know that the businesses cannot afford to repay. Okay. Now, when you bring a different currency into the picture, you do not encourage borrowing in currencies that a business is not going to be able to repay. So you try to make certain, in an aggregate sense, that the sectors that are borrowing are the sectors that will earn the foreign exchange to repay it. Okay. If you can't do it using automatic tools like your tax policies or incentives, then you're unfortunately stuck with looking at transactions in some other clumsy way and saying yes or no. We're trying to move away from that.
All right. I actually get it. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Yes. You're just trying to make sure that things don't fall apart, essentially.
Of course not.
And our challenge that we are going to face as we move forward, and for some people they're very excited about it, is this notion of the cryptocurrency. Yeah. And that is basically a way for us to exchange money without physical cash. So talk to me about, is the central bank prepared for that?
Well, more important than the notion of cryptocurrency and, say, a Bitcoin or related stuff is understanding the technology on which these currencies operate,
Right.
move. And so there's a lot of discussions about blockchain. And what that really is the technology that ensures that there is some security around such transactions, because you're in a digital space.
Right.
You put in tens of thousands or maybe a couple $100 in a digital wallet, and you want to have the assurances that the money is there, that no one is going to steal it. And so the technology really is built around ensuring a certain level of security. And really that is, I mean, in a nutshell, you know, what is involved here. Now, the way things are happening in the cryptocurrency space today, as a lot of people say, it's very difficult to persuade me and others that it's not a giant bubble.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you invest in it, you're taking considerable risk, and you'd be a fool if you sell your home or everything you own and just put it all
The
in this one
cryptocurrency.
asset. You know,
Yeah.
that is not investing in a good, sensible way under any circumstances, and it's certainly not investing in a good way when you're looking at trying to take advantage of some euphoria in the cryptocurrency space. But the technology and some of what it offers also has some potentials for how we can move ahead in the Bahamas, because we want to move more into the electronic payment space.
Okay.
We need to be able to provide more of the population with access to financial services, and doing it with the brick and mortar model of banking is not going to cut it in the future. So the technology offers some exciting possibilities because you have the security and you have the access. But there are some other issues we have to resolve around infrastructure.
Okay.
From the central bank point of view, our end goal would be to say there's a digital version of the Bahamian currency. So
Okay. Interesting.
that would not be like a Bitcoin. You would know who issues that.
Interesting.
And you'd know that it was backed by some means such as foreign reserves still. You know?
Okay.
So it's different.
Okay.
But to do that, still, we have to convince you that your money is safe and secure if you put it in the digital wallet. And so
Certainly.
all of the issues around the security of having your money in this electronic wallet still exists.
Yeah.
A lot of what is also going on now, though, is people looking at the international, the offshore side of this. That's not so much a domestic issue. But if we're going in that direction, there'd also be some issues that we have to pay very close attention to from a jurisdiction point of view, in terms of knowing who is promoting cryptocurrencies and who's using the Bahamas' name, for example, to promote cryptocurrencies, because you can have good outcomes and you can have bad outcomes. And bad outcomes, your country's name get associated with it.
Certainly. Well, a lot to think about, and certainly more that we wish we could ask you. February 1st, you will have a seminar on some of the things we talked about today.
Yes.
Who's invited and where will it be?
We sent out a general invitation to the public. We have 150 spaces.
Okay.
They're filling up quite quickly. And then at the end of February, we have a payments seminar
Okay.
where we'll deal with some of the blockchain and cryptocurrency issues and
Okay.
lay out some of the visioning around where we see the Bahamas moving in terms of development of our payment space, issues related to inclusion and access to finance.
Okay. So if we still wanted to sign up for that 150-person seminar this coming week, are we still able to do that?
You can do so. You can just send an email with your business card or email signature to governor@centralbankbahamas.com.
Okay.
And we'll put you on the list and let you know whether you got in on time. We have the commercial banks who will be present, so they are
Okay.
part of the mix. I know we expect some of the real estate professionals, the attorneys, some of the accountants, so we should have a very good mix
Awesome.
of persons in attendance. And hopefully they are not coming in very large clubs to beat up on us,
Oh,
because
dear.
the message that we're making in all of this is, look, we're focused on improving,
Okay.
and we don't want to dwell too much on the past.
Okay.
And as we improve, we're going to improve in steps.
All right. Well, for whatever, it sounds like you all are heading in the right direction. And so we look forward to continuing the conversation with you on Bahamas at Sunrise as you continue to make those changes. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, and we look forward to it.
You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.